Abusive people, narcissists, psychopaths, doesn't matter the label, they need you to feel a certain way so they're able to control you. They intend for you to feel like you're going crazy. And just being aware of this can help you regain your stability and ease some of the frustration. This video is a follow-up to the previous video titled 8 Signs That You May Be Emotionally Dysregulated. And in this part 2 video, I'll offer you some clarifying insights about being emotionally or energetically dysregulated to help you ease those sensations of feeling crazy. Please know that toxic people will make you feel responsible for their mood. They will attack you, they will ignore you, they will guilt trip you, they will sulk and complain and intimidate you. So know when this is your stuff and when it is their stuff. Most times it's them projecting onto you something unpleasant that they don't want to feel. So energetically they will dump all of this onto you if you're not aware. And this is why you feel anxious, irritable, depressed and moody after you've left their company. And narcissists will shed their emotions onto you. So if they are feeling lazy, they'll accuse you of being lazy. If they are cheating, they will accuse you of infidelity. And if you're not aware of this, it can extremely emotionally dysregulate you. So they want you to justify and defend yourself, but do not reason with an abuser. Remember, truth doesn't need defending, and time has a way of revealing things. Us humans absorb what's in our environment, whether it's good, whether it's bad. We need to be aware and more conscious of the environment that we are in, because it has a huge effect on the way we feel emotionally. And a quote that comes to mind is, "You can't keep dancing with the devil and then wonder why you're still in hell." You know, if you're around negative people, it's going to be very challenging for you to feel positive. It makes common sense. But somehow when we're in these relationships, common sense seems to go out the window. And that is because of all the distortion of truth. We completely lose our center. When we are in the presence of a known emotional predator, we are susceptible to becoming contaminated with their negativity. Choosing to surround yourself with people who are peaceful, who are happy, who are optimistic is an act of self-love, but it also will help you significantly to emotionally regulate. No matter how unhappy you are, if you spend time with someone who is optimistic, who always sees a solution in the darkest of problems, you cannot help but absorb their positivity. Of course, it is possible for you to remain calm in amongst chaos or negativity, but it's a skill that most of us are yet to master. It truly may be our lifetime's practice to not allow a highly charged environment to affect our emotions. And that's why it's so important for you to have a support network of people who inspire you, who encourage you, and who demonstrate an emotionally balanced life. Being emotionally dysregulated feels like you're going crazy. So I think the most important thing to recognize when we're talking about emotional dysregulation is to first identify what our emotions are. In toxic relationships, there's a lot of confusion about emotions, and we often are limited to being allowed to experience only certain emotions. So we have trouble identifying emotions because our range is so limited. Many people may have only ever experienced either anger or sadness. They may have very little experience or memories of ever feeling happy or content or joyous or inspired. A lot of people exist in a permanent state of being numb, and we do this just to survive this toxic environment. So emotions may be a foreign thing for you, or you may have a fear of emotions. Please know that it is not wrong for you to feel the way you do. But what is wrong is if you ignore or you don't acknowledge these feelings, because that is us avoiding vital communication from our body. And you could lovingly just ask yourself, am my emotions intensifying because I'm not paying attention? Am I disregarding what I know in my gut? Because emotions speak to us and they always guide us back into alignment. And just as an example, developing a deep sadness that someone may call depression, well, it could indicate that you do need to rest and you need to reconnect to your soul. And of course, your ego is not going to want to hear the inconvenience of that message or those emotions. So please know that emotions are only indicators. They are messengers. And we may have been brainwashed by the narcissist to believe that anger is bad. However, anger can be a very positive emotion. It can inspire us to take action. Anger also indicates that our boundaries have been violated. Anger indicates that an injustice has occurred. So anger is a very useful messenger. And that's why identifying the emotion is really important in helping you regulate. And another point is just notice your emotions. Do not judge your emotions. And let's not forget that emotions do not last forever. They come and they go. There's a peak and then there's a drop. So just accept what arises and be gentle with yourself. What is essential for regulating your emotions is boundaries. And if you are unable to set boundaries with a narcissist, that simply means that you are enmeshed with them. You are energetically fused and you are unable to accept a certain reality about this person. You may want to believe that this person is wonderful, that they love you, that they don't mean to be as abusive as they are. So we often develop this story that we desperately want to believe about the narcissist that simply is not true. So when we refuse to accept the reality about a toxic person in our life because we are so attached to a pleasant story or how we'd like them to be, when we are in denial about what's happening, we are actually creating an internal conflict. And our inability to let go of this delusion, of this story that we've made up in our minds about this person, of this story that we cannot let go of, this contributes to our feelings of being emotionally dysregulated because reality does not match our fantasy. It's really challenging to confront the harsh truth that emotionally dysregulating you is their plan. They need you to be obsessing over whether you are good enough, they need you to feel guilty, and they need you to feel ashamed. Because if you actually knew your worth, you would not tolerate this behavior. When we are emotionally dysregulated, we experience a type of emotional exhaustion, and that comes from not feeling safe within a relationship with another person, but mainly it comes from not feeling safe with the relationship with yourself. And I'm just making these points because I think they're really important things to awaken to and things to hold yourself responsible for. Notice if you're catastrophizing. So if you're turning everything into a catastrophe. So that sort of train of thought gains a lot of momentum. So just observe how you talk to yourself when your emotions feel like they're escalating. I think you'll agree that it's quite easy for us to create worst case scenarios in our own mind. So just notice how you are interpreting events. What are you telling yourself? Is the story that you're telling yourself soothing you or fueling your emotional state? Also observe if the narcissist is trying to influence you to turn up the dial on drama. Also notice the tone and the pace in which you talk to yourself. So when we're assessing our internal voice, that internal dialogue that we have, oftentimes we develop the voice of the abusive person, particularly if this was our narcissistic parent. And we continuously, throughout our life, we hear that person's voice and it's highly judgmental, highly critical, and we carry that on within ourselves forever and ever, until we become aware and we break that trance. Consciously adopt a different voice, perhaps a subtle angelic voice that talks gently and lovingly to you. We tend to underutilize the power of our imagination to comfort ourselves and our ability to change our inner talk to soothe our emotions. Notice things that trigger you and discuss those things with an appropriate, safe person, whether it's your therapist, your coach, but don't expect an abuser to soothe you, to apologize to you, or to give you some sort of reassurance. There is an appropriate time and place to discuss your emotions, and the abuser is not the appropriate person, and it is never the appropriate time or place to be discussing your emotional vulnerabilities with them. A person who has already demonstrated that they are the crazy maker in your life will use your emotionally dysregulated state against you, and they will escalate their crazy making tactics by denying, ignoring, projecting, attacking, or pretending they didn't understand you. And these are the common ways in which a narcissist will react to your peacemaking efforts. And thus, their behavior just reveals how inappropriate it is for you to turn to this person to help you with your emotions. So expecting them to give you clarity about your emotions is almost guaranteed to add to your frustration. An important part of being able to emotionally regulate yourself is setting internal boundaries, and that means having the self-control and developing the self-discipline to stop yourself from thinking certain things, allowing yourself only 10 minutes a day to write in your journal, to process all those emotions, and then to stop. And this is really important because it's part of setting internal limits within ourselves that preserve our emotional and psychological well-being. This is not the abuser's responsibility. It is not anybody else's responsibility outside of you. Because no matter how chaotic the outside world or this relationship is, it's up to you to set those internal boundaries and have that internal discipline to stop yourself getting on that train and going down that hill. And this is how we take self-responsibility for our interpretations, the stories that we tell ourselves about external circumstances. This is how we regulate and stabilize our own emotions. Being able to emotionally regulate ourselves takes practice. It takes an active participation. Our goal in these relationships is to develop a certain amount of stamina. And we can learn to build more emotional strength by practicing new attitudes and new emotional responses. And whether that means learning more mindfulness techniques, or seemingly simple things like making sure we're getting enough sleep, that we're not missing meals, because all of these things will help you to manage your emotions and develop an internal resilience. So please remember to be patient with yourself, to be gentle with yourself, and to acknowledge how far you've come. Boundaries are absolutely essential when dealing with toxic people whose intention is to emotionally dysregulate us. And your ability to draw the line and to set boundaries with toxic people is your responsibility. Boundaries help you establish emotional stability. So say no. Cut conversations short. Don't marinate in toxic environments. Preserve your peace of mind and stay away from crazy makers who you know thrive on conflict. You don't have to endure anything that you recognize is starting to drain you. Take care of yourself and be unapologetic. And regarding narcissistic relationships, we need to develop an emotional backbone, which means being able to handle certain people disliking us. And narcissists are not going to like us saying no to their BS. But you need to say no to stabilize your emotions around these people. Setting boundaries preserves your sanity and your emotional well-being. After being in hostile relationships or enduring volatile, crazy-making environments, We all need to learn how to emotionally regulate ourselves, to hold our center under any circumstance. We need to clarify all our distorted thinking, define our boundaries, know our parameters, and know with absolute certainty where we end and where another person begins. Narcissistic relationships often mean that we are enmeshed with them, we are fused with them, and it's up to us to bring that to an end. So establishing boundaries, physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, is our responsibility, and it's an absolute necessity for us to be able to emotionally regulate. And a beautiful quote that I'd love to leave you with is, remember that you are the sky and everything else is the weather.